Malls, they're the heart of many communities, bustling with life, laughter, and endless shopping opportunities. We've all spent hours wandering through their halls, grabbing a quick snack, or simply enjoying the energy around us. But what if I told you that behind the bright lights and polished floors, some malls hide terrifying secrets? What if the very places we consider safe have dark, haunting stories just waiting to be uncovered? In this video, we're going to take you on a journey through 4 spine-chilling true stories that took place inside shopping malls. These aren't the kind of tales you'd expect to hear while sipping on a latte at your local food court. No, these stories will make you look at your next trip to the mall in a whole new light. From creepy encounters with customers at a seemingly harmless adult shop, to unsettling discoveries in the hidden corners of a mall's storage rooms, these real-life events will leave you questioning the safety of your favorite shopping destinations. You won't believe what happened behind closed doors, or in some cases behind walls, where the terrifying truth was lurking all along. So, grab a seat and prepare yourself for a journey through the darkest corners of malls, where the unexpected happens and things are not always as they seem. Let's dive in. Story 1. Angel's Delight Adult Shop. Imagine working in a store that most people would never expect to be part of a mall. A store where the products on the shelves are meant to stir curiosity and discomfort. Angel's Delight was one of those places, selling everything from adult toys to questionable films. Despite its somewhat bizarre nature, it was still just another shop in a run-of-the-mill shopping mall. The customers? Well, they weren't your average mall-goers. Sure, there were the usual ones, shy, quick to make their purchase and leave. But then there were the oddballs, the regulars who made things interesting. One such couple made it a point to visit every Friday night. The husband, a conservative man who could never seem to shake his judgmental air, always made a point of telling the staff, "We're just doing our part to rid the streets of filth." But what they bought wasn't just any adult films. It was a very specific genre, with scenes that raised more than a few eyebrows. Then, one night, the store received a customer who wasn't so normal. The door flew open with such force that it broke the bell hanging above. In stormed a tall, lanky man, his eyes filled with rage. He slammed a brown paper bag on the counter and demanded a refund for a product that was apparently defective. As the employee, you'd expect him to just point to the big sign reading "No returns." But this wasn't a regular return. When the man threw the defective product on the counter, it was clear something was off. He wasn't angry about just any defect. This was an inflatable latex mask, the kind you'd never expect to see in a store like this. But as the man grew more intense, the tension in the air escalated, and before the employee knew it, the man had grabbed them by the head, slamming their face onto the counter with the mask's pump pressing into their temple. "You're going to refund me," he growled, the threat lingering like smoke in the air. In that moment, with the mask digging into the side of the employee's face, it was unclear whether the man was holding a weapon or just using sheer strength to intimidate. What happened next? The employee, terrified and shaken, handed over the cash, more than they should have, and watched as the man calmly walked out of the store, leaving the mask behind. But that wasn't the worst part. No one would believe the story, and the store's management seemed to already know exactly who the man was. It was just another typical Friday night in a mall, where the weirdest things happen when the sun goes down. This was the moment that made the employee reconsider their life choices. They would quit the job, return to college, and leave behind the world of adult shops. But the memory of that encounter, and the chilling uncertainty of whether or not there had been a gun pressed to their head, would haunt them for years to come. Stay tuned because this is only the beginning. The next story will leave you questioning whether malls are really as safe as we think. Story 2. Mall Security Guard. Now picture this, a small-town mall with a maze of corridors, a food court buzzing with the usual late-night snackers, and empty storage rooms tucked away in dark corners. For Paul, a mall security guard, this was his nightly routine, patrolling the corridors, keeping an eye on the occasional shoplifter or runaway teenager. But things were about to take a terrifying turn. The mall had a strange vibe to it. It wasn't the type of place people lingered in after hours. With only a handful of stores remaining open, the mall became eerily quiet at night. Paul had grown accustomed to the peaceful monotony until the bags started showing up. It began innocently enough. One evening, Paul found an abandoned duffel bag tucked under a bench near the central fountain. At first, he thought it was just some forgotten shopping bag, but something felt off. The smell, it was foul, like something had been left there for far too long. Despite the strange odor, Paul wasn't overly concerned. He figured someone had just left their bag behind. After all, it wasn't unusual to find items forgotten in public spaces. But then, the next night, another identical bag appeared. This time, it was in a different part of the mall. The same filthy, worn-out bag, stuffed with old clothes and, oddly enough, a plush toy. The idea of someone abandoning their belongings so recklessly seemed strange, but Paul brushed it off. Maybe it was just another case of a shopper in a hurry, right? A few days later, it happened again. Another bag, this time in a dressing room. The smell was even worse this time, though, a combination of something rotten and musty. Paul couldn't ignore it any longer. He'd seen enough. What he didn't know yet was that these bags weren't just some random act of neglect. They were breadcrumbs, leading him down a path into something much darker. Curiosity got the better of him. Paul started piecing things together, connecting the dots. The same black duffel bags, the same odd mix of clothes. Something didn't sit right. And then, during one of his shifts, he made a discovery that would change everything. Behind a stack of old stock in one of the storage units, Paul found it, a makeshift home, tucked away in the dark. A tiny room constructed out of cardboard boxes, mattresses, and discarded clothing. This wasn't some homeless person looking for a place to sleep. This was something different. Someone had been living in the shadows of the mall for who knows how long. As Paul's heart raced, he realized he wasn't dealing with a simple squatter. The whole situation had the unsettling feeling of something premeditated. This wasn't an accident. Someone had been hiding in the mall, slipping in and out of the storage areas, living right under their noses. But before Paul could even begin to wrap his mind around it, the man who had been living there disappeared. Just like that. Gone without a trace. No one knew where he went. But the bags, the clothes, and the strange discoveries, those lingered, leaving behind a mystery that would never be solved. Paul tried to alert the authorities, but they found nothing significant. All that was left was a chilling memory of a man who had been hiding in plain sight, living in the mall, undetected by everyone around him. As Paul walked away from that mall, he couldn't shake the feeling that someone, somewhere, was still out there, still watching. And as unsettling as it was, he knew this wasn't the last time he'd encounter something strange. But the next story? Well, that's even more chilling. Let's move on to the next terrifying tale, because what happened in the following mall incident will leave you on edge. It's a story that proves even the most mundane places can turn deadly when least expected. Story 3. Man falls from the mall. The mall, meant for relaxation, shopping, and entertainment, but for one mall owner, it became the final destination. It was a hot summer evening when tragedy struck, an event so horrifying that it not only led to the closure of the mall, but also left the employees and regular shoppers haunted by what they witnessed. On that fateful night, the mall had closed its doors to the public. Only a handful of employees remained in the building, working overtime, including the manager of a store on the 3rd floor. He had been busy preparing for a fashion event with a small group of invited guests. Little did anyone know that the night would take a dark turn. As the manager's wife stepped outside for a brief moment of fresh air, she had no idea what was about to unfold. From across the central open space of the mall, she watched in horror as a man, dressed in a brown business suit, fell from the top floor of the mall, plummeting towards the ground below. It happened so suddenly. The man's body seemed to freeze for a brief moment as he descended, his jacket flapping in the air, his face morphing from confusion to terror. His shoe flew off mid-fall, and in the blink of an eye, he vanished from her view. There was no scream, no warning, just the chilling silence as he collided with the hard floor below. In that instant, the entire atmosphere of the mall shifted. The sight of a human life snatched away so violently left an indelible mark on everyone who witnessed it, especially the wife, who had seen the man fall right before her eyes. The mall employees quickly gathered around, but what followed was even more unsettling. The fall was ruled as an accident, but the truth about why the man had been on the top floor that night remains shrouded in mystery. It was reported that the mall was struggling financially, and the owner, who had been facing mounting debt, had made a few questionable decisions in the months leading up to that night. Some believed it was simply an unfortunate slip. Maybe the man had leaned over the railing to fix something or check on the building. But others couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. Was it truly a mistake, or was there something more sinister happening behind the scenes? The mall closed shortly after the incident, never to reopen again. The memory of the man's fall lingered long after the building had been torn down, and the unanswered questions left a cloud of suspicion over the whole event. Some say the mall was cursed, and no one who witnessed the fall could shake the eerie feeling that the place was haunted by the man's tragic end. But as unsettling as that story is, there's still one more chilling tale to tell. A story that proves not even the quietest corners of a mall are safe. What happens when something truly dark and dangerous emerges from the shadows? Well, let's find out in our next story. Story 4: Creepy Hooded Teens. After hours at the mall, the world takes on a different kind of atmosphere. The bright lights fade, the crowds disappear, and only a few die-hard night owls remain. For one vending machine repairman, this was just another late-night job. He had been called to fix a broken Mario Kart arcade machine in a quiet service station attached to a mall. It seemed simple enough, just another fix in the middle of a long, tiring shift. But as he walked into the service station, he immediately felt something was off. There were a few people scattered around, but something about them felt strange. A group of teens, no older than 18, were huddled together in the corner. They wore hoodies and scarves that covered their faces, making them look even more suspicious. Despite their quiet demeanor, the repairman couldn't shake the feeling that something was brewing. He brushed it off at first, grabbing a coffee from the vending machine and taking a seat to enjoy his meal. But then, the group stood up and made their way toward him. No words were exchanged. The tension in the air was palpable. The repairman, trying to stay calm, asked them, "Can I help you?" But the only response he got was a shove. Not a hard shove, but enough to make him flinch. The teens didn't speak, they just stared, their faces obscured by their scarves and hoods. The group's behavior was erratic, unsettling. It was like they were trying to provoke him, to draw him into something he didn't want to be a part of. Then, without warning, one of the teens behind him laid their hands on his shoulders, and a cold chill ran down his spine. The repairman tried to stay calm, but something told him this wasn't just a prank. This was becoming something dangerous. The next few moments felt like an eternity. The group began taunting him, getting closer with every step. They slammed their fists on the table, and the repairman knew it was time to leave. He grabbed his bags and made his way toward the door, hoping the group would lose interest. But no, they followed him. The repairman hurried outside, praying the service station worker would lock the doors behind him, but the teens were relentless. They charged at his van, slapping the hood, hooting and hollering like they were some wild animals. He could feel his heart racing. They had no fear, no hesitation. They wanted to terrorize him. The repairman, shaken and panicked, jumped into his van, started the engine, and peeled out of the parking lot. The group didn't stop. They chased after his van, slapping and banging on the sides until they faded into the darkness. Once the repairman made it home, he inspected the van and found a long, thin scratch along the side. It looked like something had scraped it, something sharp, maybe even a knife. The whole encounter felt like something out of a horror movie. He would never forget how close he came to something far worse happening. What the repairman didn't know was that these teens had been terrorizing the service station for weeks, and nobody had been able to stop them. They were just another danger lurking in the shadows of a seemingly safe place. As chilling as these 4 stories are, they raise an important question. Are malls really the safe, bustling places we think they are? Or are they hiding darker, more sinister secrets that we'd rather not face? Think about that next time you step into your local mall. Conclusion. As we've seen from these 4 terrifying true stories, malls, places that many of us think of as safe and mundane, can sometimes harbor dark, unsettling secrets. From hidden lives of squatters to mysterious falls, and from creepy encounters to unsettling incidents, these stories serve as a reminder that not everything is as it seems behind the glossy shop windows and bright lights. The truth is, there's always something beneath the surface, and sometimes that something can be downright chilling. The next time you step foot into your local mall, you might wonder what really happens after the stores close, or what's hiding in the shadows of the food court. But don't be afraid to walk through those doors. After all, what are the odds that you'll encounter a scary situation, right? Just remember, sometimes the most terrifying things happen in the places you least expect. And with that, we wrap up our journey through these spine-chilling mall stories. We hope this has left you questioning what goes on in the places you pass by every day. Maybe next time, you'll take a closer look around, because who knows what might be hiding just around the corner. Before you go, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever experienced something strange or terrifying in a mall? Share your stories with us in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that notification bell to get alerted about all future uploads. Who knows, your story might just be featured in our next video. Thank you for watching, and remember, sometimes the creepiest things are the ones that happen in the most ordinary places. Stay curious, stay safe, and always watch your surroundings.